Well, we are now just about 2 weeks out from the start of the 2023 Canadian Premier League season. The month of March was a very entertaining one for preseason in the Canadian Premier League, as all clubs started their preseason training going around to all different parts of the world to start off their preseasons in warmer weather. Now, while most teams brought pretty much full rosters to training camp, there were still moves that had to be done as teams in the month of March looked to fill out their remaining roster spots and tried to find the X factors that will make them contending squads in the Canadian Premier League. These are the biggest transfers from March 2023. To start things off, Vancouver FC, the new expansion team in Vancouver, went and made one of the highest profile non-Canadian player signings into the Canadian Premier League ever. Vancouver FC signed 27-year-old Mexican winger Gael Sandoval. Sandoval is a Liga MX veteran, making 49 appearances for Santos Laguna and 42 appearances for Guadalajara within Liga MX, as well as a couple short loan stints at other teams. Most recently, he spent 2022 on loan with Wellington Phoenix of the Australian A-League, and now he has signed with Vancouver FC for the 2023 Canadian Premier League season. Sandoval is not the first Liga MX alumni to come and play in the Canadian Premier League. Most notably, the most recent was Alejandro Diaz, who won the Golden Boot last season despite being transferred out of the league in July. So a lot of hype coming in surrounding Sandoval, as traditionally former Liga MX players have done very well in the Canadian Premier League, and Sandoval's a guy who not only has Liga MX experience, but Liga MX experience playing with two major teams in Mexico in Santos Laguna and Guadalajara. He should be Vancouver's X factor and likely will be the club's first star going into their first ever season. Moving on, the next couple transfers have a bit of a Toronto FC theme. First off, Luke Singh, the Toronto FC center back, has been loaned out for the season to Atletico Ottawa. Luke Singh, as all Toronto FC fans know, broke onto the scene with Toronto FC early in the 2021 season when a lot of injuries were happening around the TFC back line. The MLS homegrown player went and was brought into Toronto FC's lineup for the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League run, where he was quite successful and helped Toronto FC make a surprise appearance in the quarterfinals of that Champions League season. However, as the depth of the team was brought back up to par throughout the 2021 season, Luke Singh saw a drastic decrease in playtime, and for 2022, with the incoming transfers of Shane O'Neill and Lucas McNaughton, O'Neill was forced out of the back line and was sent on loan to FC Edmonton for the entirety of the 2022 season. While FC Edmonton was not a great team in 2022, Luke Singh was a bright spot and was by far the team's best defender. However, for Toronto FC again this season, he's in a position where TFC has just brought in Sigurd Rosted and Matt Hedges, so that left Singh again as the odd man out in the center back core, and so he is loaned back out to Atletico Ottawa. Singh is a great center back, very much CPL starting quality at the very least. Ottawa get a very nice piece in him, and for his development path, it's just better for him to now be going from FC Edmonton, which was a team where he got a lot of minutes but didn't really contend very often to win games, to Atletico Ottawa, a team where he likely will get a lot of minutes as well, but now he's also contending to win a CPL championship and playing on a team where going throughout the whole season, every single game is going to matter, and every single game is going to be very important to win. So just for his mental state and mental development, that is huge, and for Atletico Ottawa, it is a big get to shore up their back line. Sticking with Toronto FC defenders, but back to Vancouver FC, Kadin Chung signs with Vancouver FC following the mutual termination of his contract with TFC. Kadin Chung was a CPL OG, signing with Pacific FC prior to the 2019 CPL season and playing the 2019, 2020, and 2021 CPL seasons with Pacific. A very impressive right back in the CPL for Pacific, Chung went to Toronto FC for the 2022 season, got some play time, but as the season went on, he was surpassed by two younger, however, kind of out of position right backs in Jaquil Marshall-Rutty and Kosi Thompson, and with Richie Larea being brought in on loan, Kadin Chung just fell way down the Toronto FC depth chart at right back and out of the picture to play. Interesting that he now goes to Vancouver FC, as it seems like a couple of these BC-based guys, but mainland BC-based guys who originally went to Pacific FC because that was the closest they could get to home, are now going to Vancouver FC, as it is an even closer location to home, not having to be on the Vancouver Island. But Kadin Chung brings a very experienced and very good CPL right back to Vancouver FC, one of the better fullbacks in the Canadian Premier League when he played back in 2021 with Pacific. So that is another huge signing for Vancouver, as they now have added a fantastic winger in Sandoval and a fantastic fullback in Kadin Chung, really in March adding some huge improvements to get themselves ready for their first ever season. And adding with the Toronto FC theme, 20-year-old Valor midfielder Matthew Catavolo has signed with Toronto FC 2. Now, Catavolo, 2022 was his first season as a full professional, playing at the age of 19 with Valor FC, making 16 appearances. He was a very solid midfielder for Valor and a very exciting young prospect for Valor, but he has left Valor after just one season in the Canadian Premier League, going to MLS Next Pro with Toronto FC 2. Now, this adds to a growing list of young Canadian Premier League talent that have gone to join MLS Next Pro squads. A league choice that raised more questions this preseason in the CPL, as pretty much every single time a CPL team played a preseason friendly against a MLS Next Pro team, the CPL team won, and the CPL was obviously the better team to anyone who watched the match. So the CPL to MLS Next Pro move is an interesting one because it seems to be a move down to a slightly lower quality league. However, it's not about the league, it's about the connection to MLS. The fact that if you perform well in MLS Next Pro, you get an immediate call up to an MLS squad, and like even short-term loans to MLS to show off what you got there. So for younger players, that is a very enticing option. And for Toronto FC 2 in the midfield this season, we've already seen Alonso Coelho Camarero get called up and now have made 2 appearances with Toronto FC in MLS. So for Catavolo, that sort of trajectory would be a very ideal path for him to take. So good luck for him moving to Toronto FC 2, and hopefully he can be another Canadian Premier League player to potentially crack into an MLS squad. Next up, we have the first incoming Forge transfer of the off-season. In March, yes, I know, that's bizarre. But Forge, in typical Forge fashion, after making absolutely no moves throughout the first 4 months of the offseason, went and made a massive one to be their first and so far only incoming transfer. Canadian national team defender Manjrekar James. Now, following the loss of Daniel Crutzen to Phoenix Rising in the USL, it was a question of what Forge was going to do to replace that gap. I know Crutzen missed most of last season with injury, but it was clear that Forge definitely wanted another elite center back to put next to Alexander Ashinoti-Jansson on the back line. And boy, did they deliver with Manjrekar James. James, at the age of 29, has bounced around the European leagues for years. He spent a couple years as a regular in the Hungarian top division for a few different teams before moving to FC Midtjylland in the Danish top division. He never really got consistent minutes with Midtjylland, but he did get a bit of Champions League experience and then also got loaned out a couple times and found more minutes with other teams in the Danish top flight, in the Greek Super League, and in the Ukrainian Premier League. Most recently, he was signed with Chronomets Odessa in the Ukrainian Premier League for the 2022-2023 season. James has made 17 appearances for the Canadian national team, scoring 2 goals. However, he's only made 1 appearance since 2018, as the rise in talent level of that team seems to have pushed him out of the picture. Back to Canada, in the Canadian Premier League at the age of 29, James is a very high-profile Canadian signing. And the addition of him to an already very good Forge backline just solidifies the Forge backline as the best in the league, as they already have Alexander Ashnioti-Janssen, who's the reigning defender of the year, and now adding Manjrekar James, who might just be the best defender in the Canadian Premier League right now. Finally, we end with maybe one of the more exciting CPL to Europe transfers as of yet. David Norman Jr. has been transferred from Cavalry FC to Northampton Town in the English League 2, the fourth tier of English football. David Norman Jr., as fans of the CPL know, has been a crucial part of Cavalry FC's team the past 2 years. Since joining Cavalry in 2021, he instantly became a key factor in that squad. And at the age of when he joined, just 23, became an instant leader, wearing the captain's armband on several occasions, and now at the age of 24 gets a transfer over to England. Now, where the CPL ranks in relation to what level of the English pyramid is always a fun level of debate amongst fans, and people seem to be generally consenting that it's somewhere between the 4th and 5th tiers of the English pyramid. So another CPL player going to a professional level, to the English Football League, and finding an ability to get minutes there and play there is just huge for the Canadian Premier League and for the standing of where the Canadian Premier League sort of ranks in the global football scale. Funnily enough, the other CPL player that's gone and found playtime in the English 4th tier is former Cavalry player Arabim Pepple. So it's funny that in the past year it's happened twice, and it's happened to two guys from the same team. But this is a big move for David Norman Jr. to go get to England, get himself out there in England, and potentially climb up the ranks of the English football pyramid or go to other bigger leagues in Europe. He is a very talented player, and this is a great move for him, albeit one that is going to leave a massive hole in the Cavalry roster. So there you have it. Those are the biggest transfers from the Canadian Premier League of March. With just 2 weeks remaining to go to the start of the season, there is likely not going to be many more big moves prior to the start of the Canadian Premier League season, as most teams seem to be pretty set in their rosters moving forward. A lot of big changes in the CPL this offseason mean that this season is likely going to be the most competitive one in Canadian Premier League history. So it should be a very, very exciting season. And all these player transfers have just been so significant in changing who is at the top of the food chain in the Canadian Premier League and editing how tight of a race this CPL season is going to be. So that is for this video. As always, if you like to hit like, if you want to see more stuff, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.